Hello guys, welcome back to Lunatic Astrology, and today I'm going to go into all signs plus in-depth content about this intense last of the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle on December the 4th at 12.5 degrees of Sagittarius. It is right on the ascendant of the natal chart, the Sibley natal chart of the US of A. It's conjunct a warrior star called Antares, and it is conjunct an asteroid called Arachne, the weaver, who bested Athena in a weaving contest, and it is a story of hubris and pride and downfall. And at the end, the mercy of the gods. So let's go ahead and talk about the general sky, and then you can check your rising sun or moon sign to see how the last of what has been an eclipse cycle that began as far back as the summer of 2020 may finish up the story in your chart. Now, before I go ahead and do that, just a little reminder that eclipse cycles are like rivers of change that move through the chart, and they move through a certain area of your life depending on where those houses or those signs and houses fall. So for instance, the Gemini and Sagittarius corridor of the chart in the United States natal chart is the corridor of the first house Sag and the seventh house Gemini. So the eclipses are always equidistant, right? Like barbells or two sides of a coin. They're opposite each other, the eclipse cycles. And so where you have the Gemini and the Sagittarius axis on your chart, but those houses have been very active since like the North Node moved, I think June of 2020, let's say around that time into Gemini. And, you know, if you want to go back in your life, go back to the fall, like around October of 2001, throughout 2002 into early 2003. And that cycle was playing out as well in the same way it has been for the last 18 months and is completing now. So we're kind of in this in-between between a new eclipse cycle, the Taurus Scorpio cycle, and the old one finishing up. And if you want to go check out my description box, you can see the lunar eclipse at 27 Taurus, and you can go check your sign and see how that may play out as well. That's beginning something new that's going to take an year and a half to 2 years to complete that lunar eclipse in Taurus, whereas this one that's coming up December 4th is ending. And what else did I want to say about that? All eclipses that occur in the sky tend to have an influence window of at least a month before, sometimes longer, and 6 months after. So think of them as stepping stones of change. Now, let's go to the big picture story. If you don't care about the big picture, you can go just straight to your all sign and the timestamps, but I suggest you stick around and get some flavor. And don't forget, please, if you don't mind, hitting the like button, subscribing, and the bell for notifications. That really helps my channel grow, and I really appreciate it. Also, check out all my stuff in the description box because I have an eclipse sale. It's usually $150 and it's down to $111, and I'm going to cover the entire eclipse cycle that takes you all the way through until the summer of 2023. It's like an 18-month journey through the Taurus and Scorpio cycle. Of course, I will address in the reading with you what just finished with the Sag Gemini, and I can get into a lot of detail in your natal chart that I can't do just on this general reading for, you know, the signs. All right, so I'm really intrigued by two things about this eclipse. I'm intrigued by the fact that it is sextiling Saturn, right, which is harmonious, flowing energy, going to Saturn in Aquarius, the god of discipline, structure, you know, rigidity, containment, refinement, and legacy and endurance. Saturn can represent authority and status quo as well. And the eclipse is like in a flowing, harmonious connection, right? Trying to fortify something good there from the Gemini area of the chart. Did I say sextile? Sorry, yeah, Sag, it's Sag, not Gemini, from the Sag area of the chart where the eclipse, new moon eclipse is happening, of course, to the Aquarian zone of the chart. So there's something good that's trying to happen with this eclipse because the sky is tightly matching it up with a Saturnian flavor, all right? And a trine to Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries. So there's something good that's trying to happen here. I am a little concerned about Antares and the US ascendant being on this particular eclipse point. So it's not good to have your natal ascendant eclipsed, right? Because it could eclipse something about your health or your body or your identity. And a solar eclipse in particular tends to have the vicissitudes of fate. It doesn't give you a lot of you know, agency to say no change, thank you. And the United States, very identity. The very identity of a nation is having an eclipse exactly on it. So the United States is going to have a new kind of a look at it, who it is or what it is in the 6 months, like as a nation, what we the people, they the people, what the governments say that the nation is about and for. Now, as you know, in the United States in the last year or so too, there's a lot of conflict and polarity between parties in the government, between vaccine and anti-vaccine movements, between politics around racial equity and certainly a fair treatment by police. And just as I'm recording this on November 20th, there was that jury declared this Kyle Rittenhouse was innocent, even though he did end up killing somebody by taking a submachine gun to a protest. I mean, you're asking for trouble. So in the United States, you got the gun lobby going against the gun lobby. So I'm Canadian. Guys, don't hate on me. I'm just telling you, because all this tension and polarity, like almost civil war context of the United States, is coming up in the context as well of a Pluto return, which happens every 250 years and redefines nations, okay? And historically, it is a fall and rise, or just a fall or a significant change of a nation. And that Pluto return is going to start next February 2022 and last for about a year and a half, 2 years. We're already in the energy of that now. It just gets more precise next year. So what is brewing here with an eclipse on the identity of the ascendant? On the day of on a warrior star, the nature of Mars and Jupiter, Antares. Now, Antares is a star about military conquest, combat, and also violence, and it's got some negative things. It's a royal Persian star associated with Archangel Uriel, but it's still a warrior star. And in fact, Antares means rival of Aries. It's Taurus, Aries, and against rival of Aries. So, this is a star that is as bright as Aries and as Mars in the sky sometimes, right? The god of war. And so Aries is the god of war. And it's also called Mars. And the star is a rival to that god. On the day of the actual eclipse, at the exact moment of the eclipse, 12 degrees and 22 minutes is the degree of the eclipse. The sky is such that there are indicators, in my humble opinion, that there's going to be a fall, like a hubris or a fall for the United States, and that could affect the world because of the asteroid that's sitting there on the ascendant of the USA, where the eclipse is happening, and it's the asteroid Arachne. Now, I don't know if you want to hear the whole story, but I'm going to give you the gist of it. There was a mortal woman who was a weaver. Her mother died in childbirth. Her dad commended her, and the people loved her, and the nymphs went to see her weaving, and weaving tapestries, but also weaving functional blankets. And she was applauded as got to be the best in the entire world. And at one point she said, "I'm better than Athena." Now, Athena is a goddess of knowledge and wisdom, and she was known to be a weaver. And at one point, Athena heard that this mortal dared to say she was better than the goddess, and she went to spy on her as an old woman, like a crone or a senex, and she got she got the girl Arachne to confess that she felt she was better than Athena, and then the crone turns into Athena and goes kind of a Cruella de Vil movie or whatever. "How dare thou, say that you could beat a god?" And so then they have this contest in the very moment, and Athena does this entire tapestry in which she depicts the 12 gods of the Mount Olympus and the birthing of the gods, and then a whole part of the tapestry is all about how the mortal humans get punished by the gods. And then the girl goes next, and she's doing her thing, and she goes into a fever trance, and she's really out of it, and she's like, "Arr!" And she's going to beat Athena, and she does a whole tapestry that's about the foibles of the gods and the F-ups of the gods that are known by all the mortals, all the times the gods have screwed up their own lives by, fighting and having jealousy with each other. Now, this was, cause for punishment. You cannot diss the gods. And so as soon as this fever trance ended, Arachne's like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And she runs out with a rope from her weaving. And she's like, "If I cannot weave, I cannot live," because basically that's her thing, right? That's her thing. She's a weaver. And so she ends up running off and hanging herself. And then Athena and everybody follows after her, and tears are coming down Athena's eyes, and she realizes what's happened. And then she spares the girl by turning her into a spider and turning the rope into a piece of web. And she sort of says, "Well, if your talent is too great that you should not be able to weave, I hereby gift you the ability to weave forever," and turns her into a spider. All right. Okay, so you got the gist. Now, the story is hubris, right? The mortal girl can beat the god. The god took mercy. I don't know how to interpret that for this eclipse, but if United States ascendant has this goddess of great has this mortal energy of the weaver that can best the gods being punished. No, and then this sort of sense of remorse, and then the sense of suicide, and then the sense of the goddess Athena trying to rectify the situation after the fact, although she would have punished her, she would have turned her into some kind of slime ball thing anyway. It's kind of an intense story that's happening on the United States ascendant, where the asteroid is, with Antares, a warrior star. So what are some examples? Bring it down to earth, Lori. What about if the United States gets involved in a war that they are like so proud that they could just like deal with the situation and it turns into a disaster, for example, on the day of the eclipse at 12 degrees and 22 minutes in Washington, D.C., it's a Libra rising with Aries Chiron on the descendant. That tells me there's a very good likelihood there's going to be some kind of conflict, that Aries war, mundane chart, descendant energy or whatever of other nations or others coming up against the United States. And I think the United States could get involved in some conflict, not that they're going to cause it. They could get pulled into a conflict in the 6 months that follow this eclipse. And lastly, but not leastly, go check out my Joe Biden, Kamala Harris becoming president in 22 video down below. I know a lot of people don't like this stuff, but guys, there's an eclipse on Joe's birthday, the lunar eclipse, and on Kamala's Jupiter ruler of her house of partners and everything else. And it just looks like health issues maybe are causing him in 22 to step away, and she may be stepping up to take over while he's recovering, or hopefully nothing worse. All right, so the reason I brought that up is the ascendant of the United States is the identity of the United States, but because Jupiter is a ruler of the U.S. ascendant, Jupiter represents the god of Mount Olympus, Sagittarius Jupiter. And so an eclipse to Sagittarius could be an eclipse to Jupiter energy in the U.S. chart. So it's just a thought. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the chart to show you the picture, and then we're going to go into the all signs portion of it. I also should say that Neptune is about opposite the USA birth natal Neptune, which is causing all this conspiracy theories and confusion and delusion and all of that stuff in the United States right now, especially around things like politics and vaccines and stuff. And Neptune went direct, or will have gone direct, on December 1st, 3 days before the eclipse. So some of that confusion and that fog about what's real and what's Memorex and all this may start to lift slowly as we go through December and January, and Neptune is no longer in retrogradation. Hopefully that means, I think, that some of the intensity around that stuff in the United States could lift. There's also, lastly but not leastly, something called the Great Attractor. Like, it's a big vacuum cleaner in the center of, the Milky Way, and it's at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, and it's a big like vacuum hole of energy that keeps attracting and pulling matter and debris into it and sucking it up like a big black hole. And that Great Attractor, whatever that thing is really where the U.S. ascendant is. Funny that the founding fathers did that. And they probably didn't know there was a great attractor near 12 Sag. It's at 14 Sag. And so there's all that intensity too around this solar eclipse, around this idea of something really intense, like a cosmic vacuum cleaner, sucking everything up. Okay, so let's go ahead. That sounds so intense. And let's look at the chart in the sky, and then I'll do all signs. Okay, I just want to show you the picture of what it looks like. Oh my God, there's a giant seagull that just landed on my balcony here. Huge, like the size of a turkey. All right. So this is what the sky looks like on eclipse day in Washington, D.C. And you can see that we have the sun and the moon co-joined. That's called an eclipse. That's a new moon near the south node, north node, which is why we have eclipses, and the ecliptic and the nodal axis. So south node is about loss, surrender, and letting go. So to remind you, eclipsing of the United States identity, loss, surrender, and letting go. Okay. Well, the descendant of the United States, which is, the area of the chart that is Gemini, is going to experience some energy around, the descendant of the United States is other countries, it would be China or Russia, really, to the United States, having more expansive energy. That little thing up here is Black Moon Lilith. She's like the scorned, vilified feminine, the mother of demons archetype, who really isn't, the first wife of Adam. There's a lot of ways to take the Lilith archetype, but it's often about things that are under the surface that are, you know, not properly seen, and the desire to tell the truth about what's really there. So I'm not sure how to interpret that. It just happens to be in the chart. So I'm going to leave that with you. I do see, as I said, there's a sextile to Saturn. It's kind of past the intensity, but it's still there, and a gentle trine to Chiron. You know, the United States Capitol, Washington, D.C., is what this is cast for. And there is a Libra rising, and that seagull's really loud. Can you hear him? And that's about trying to find balance and harmony. But there's that war on the descendant energy with wounded war, a war of wounds. I'm not sure what to make of it. Funny, on the eclipse day in Washington, the U.S. ascendant falls in the third house of neighborhoods and things that go on in the local and domestic environment, as opposed to foreign lands and shores. But there is that oppositional energy between, you know, it reminds me of the United States when they didn't want to get involved in World War II, and they wanted to do isolationism, and they refused to get involved until the Pearl Harbor bombing. It's almost like this feels the same way. There's something going on in the world, like, let's pretend like China invades Taiwan or something, and they're trying to stay out of it, but maybe they're going to fall into it. That's a thought, just a thought. Okay, so to help, say, Australia in the region, you know, we're going to go ahead and do all signs. And I think I'm just not going to share the screen with you guys, because once I advance it, everything moves around. We'll just do it from me talking to you and you listening, if that's okay with you. And I'm going to start with Aries, sorry, 1, 2, not the weeks, and we're going to go into all signs. So I don't always start with the Aries people, as everyone who watches my channel knows. And don't forget, like, subscribe, check my description box. Your rising sign will be the most accurate. Your sun could be quite good if you're born at night, day, and if you're born on the night, then the moon. But they're icing on the cake. You really want to definitely read the sun, unless you have a stellium, like 3 or 4 or 5 planets in one sign, particularly if the sun and moon is with that stellium. Then you really do maybe want to listen to the sign where many planets are located. You can cast your chart at astro.com or AstroSeek for free. You'll need to have your birth time, however, to get the houses lined up. Choose whole sign houses. They're easier. I'm a Hellenistic astrologer. They work better. All righty. I'm going to start, and I'm going to tell you what I see, and you get to watch me instead of the chart. I'm experimenting with this. Can I lure you into the channel with me? So Aries, you guys are, so Aries sun, moon, and rising sign, and reminding you that Aries rising is the best description of what I'm about to say in the all signs portion of this reading. So wait, before I do that, let me pause. Sorry, guys, I'm annoying myself. So Aries, I had to get my stopwatch so I can timestamp this. You're experiencing this eclipsing of something in your 9th house, of God, of wisdom, of Dharma, of higher education, of foreign shore travel. Now, look, you know, you've been having eclipses up there, South Node letting go, right? Oh my gosh, since, like, you know, the eclipses themselves started November of 2020. And it has been, like, I'm an Aries sun and moon. I can tell you, like, it has been a softening and letting go of my desire to go travel to foreign lands because of the pandemic. I'm a big junkie for foreign land travel. I haven't been anywhere since April of 2000, Costa Rica, April 2019. So, I mean, see what I mean, right? So, you know, this kind of South Node makes us soften, release, surrender, let go. It's a place of, like, where the bucket has a leak, you know? And so a lot of you Aries, you know, if you wanted to do things that had to do with travel, book publishing, academics, or even trying to really get in touch with your true calling or purpose, it's been a bit of a struggle. That 9th house has not been an easy place. And now that there is an eclipse up there, especially given that it's on that warrior star on Taurus, you might find that you're ready to take that sword, like, and just kind of cut some stuff out. Now, ultimately, the deepest meaning is the idea of your beliefs and what, you know, faith you hold. That's why it's the house of religion. And so a lot of some of you Aries will have a redefinition of what you believe. And I don't think it has to be, you know, like a giant thing like changing religions, but it could be for some of you. But it's coming to a close that you've been trying to figure out, what do you actually believe? I'll give you an example. Like, over the last 2 years, I've really been pondering fate and free will. As an astrologer, I can't count the number of times I see something in a chart that happens for the client, or look at their chart and say, what happened when this happened, you know, in the sky? It looks like maybe, you know, your parent was sick, or there was a problem with your spouse. And it turns out to be that the sky is accurate. What does that mean? Do we have any agency? Do we have any free will? I used to think that we had tons of it. We could manifest whatever we wanted. I don't believe that anymore. The last 2 years of thousands of clients, my beliefs have changed. So your beliefs are changing. And this is the last dagger of belief change coming up for you. And it doesn't have to be hard. I like that the Arachne thing is there, the weaver. She certainly is a storyteller when you take the spider and the indigenous American idea of she's the weaver of the world story. So some of you may actually be writing because of this, trying to best the gods with your word weaving, because I'm trying to write a book. So maybe that's all that is. But also South Node, it's like, it's an emptying out. So you're going to refine everything down to the very bare minimum. Last but not least, if you're a teacher, educator, or student, this applies as well. So I teach a lot of classes online about astrology, but I'm refining it next year to one singular class that I'm teaching. I can't wait to roll it out. And I'm probably going to do it twice a year. And I'm so excited. So I let go and I'm releasing a lot of what I teach. And I decided I don't want to reinvent the astrology wheel. I'll let the good teachers like my teacher, Achuta Bava of Nightlight Astrology. I mean, he's a brilliant teacher, guys. I've sent a lot of clients to him. Do that kind of in-depth one-on-one astrology teaching. All right, moving on. So you get it, Aries, sun, moon, and rising, especially you're letting go of beliefs, you're letting go of ninth house things. This is the last of that story. And of course, go back to 2000 and fall of 2001 into 2002, spring of 2003. You were also letting go of things that you believed in back then too. And I can remember doing that quite well. My mom died suddenly and in a car incident, and I had a huge crisis of faith during that eclipse cycle. And my marriage ended as well. So it was pretty intense. It was kind of intense. And I changed countries, right? South Node, let go, foreign lands, foreign shores. I'm Canadian. I was living in the United States. That eclipse cycle relocated me out of the United States of America back to Canada. Okay, moving, or the plans for the move happened during that eclipse cycle. Okay, so I'm just checking the time. That was Aries. Sorry, I'm time stamping. Now it's Taurus. So, okay. Moving on, Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. So guys, you're having the energy of this eclipse coming into the story for you with the new moon solar eclipse on this last of the cycle, December the 4th, in your 8th house. Now, the 8th house is a house of death. It's simply like not an easy house. So we define death metaphorically, if you like, a death of ego, because it is an enlightenment house, a death of sense of self. A lot of people have retirement energies or leaving marriages when they have lots of action in their 8th house. But it is fundamentally also a money house. It's money that you have from governments, inheritances, tax rebates, dividends, investments, spousal money, other people's money that you can get your hands on, that you share, not just your own possessions and earnings. And a lot of times when there's a lot of eclipse action in something like your 8th house, you're going to have a lot of changes. Think back to the beginning of this North Node entry into the house in the midsummer of 2020 through to this eclipse waning in its influence April of 2023. There's a lot of changes, Taurus, in the money story. Now, sometimes eclipses in this part of the chart, and it's going to depend on your natal chart and what planets are doing what, but it can result in an eclipse that leads to an inheritance, right? So, but it can also be an eclipse of the way money comes to you. So there could be, like, if you were on a disability grant, for instance, that could be like 8th house stuff. It could suddenly turn off or something, or a change in the way you can receive funds in your life. So I would say that you don't have to be worried about this because you've been dealing with this already for almost 18 months. You know the tone and the tenure of it. And I would look at it as an opportunity for you to close this door around the 8th house themes, really just shut it up, close it up for good, and see if the energy of the letting go of other people's money doesn't serve you, because what it really is saying in that North Node transit through your 2nd, it's time to get your game on around creating your own wealth in life and about generating your own money and not relying on other people's money. Okay. So just, whether it was again, bank loans or mortgages or spousal money or whatever, it's time to get your hustle on. And these eclipses have been trying to show you, you have what it takes to make your own money and make your own way in the world. All righty. 6:53. Okay, next. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. So Geminis, and I'm really keeping it simple, as you've noticed, right? I'm not going into a lot of detail on these ones. I want you to just get the base note endpoint of a longer eclipse cycle. So Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign people. The eclipses are all about you right now. The North Node has been going through your first house since the summer of 2020, expanding your sense of identity in the world. At the same time, the South Node has been loosening the grip on your marriage, on your business partnerships, and on your clients, audience, marketplace, other that you reach out to through your career. Why do I say that? Well, because I do. Because the seventh house is 10th from the 10th. So it's your publicity kind of thing for your career. So you may find that you have this, there's been a lot of softening. If you're married, this has been really difficult on your marriage. If you have a business partnership, this has been difficult on your business partnership. There's no doubt about it. And this is the last salvo, or the last softening in this part of the chart. And, there is that sextile to Saturn in the ninth house, which is courts and legal cases and stuff. So this could be for some of you about, finalizing a divorce or getting one in motion, or wrapping up the agreements between two people, separating. And same way go with business partnerships. If you had any problems with your partner, you'd be straightening them out, and the legal affairs would be coming to a close. This seagull is huge. He is so big. I've seen him before, and he's sitting on my balcony looking at me and making these little sounds, and he's tweeting. Wow. Okay. I live in Vancouver, guys. We have seagulls. And what else can I tell you? I would also maybe say to you, with the energy there of, Antares, a warrior star. Yeah, sure, it's an archangel, Uriel, but it's still the nature of Mars. So be careful, because it's an eclipse on a warrior star in the house of your marriage or business partnership, that you don't go to war with this situation, and that you try to temper that, because there is at the same time, Gemini, a trine to Chiron in your 11th house. Maybe guides and mentors and allies from friendship circles can help soften some of this tension you have here, and you can lean on that kind of support somehow. Alrighty, Gemini, that's it for you. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. You guys are having this story I'm writing it down. You guys are having this story occur in the part of the chart that has to do with your work and your health, like the routines for health, the ways you fortify your health through the routines that you do. And a lot of the time, those routines are daily habits and routines for the sixth house, not just one-off, but the everyday work-a-day things that you do. And also you could find that this is colleagues and coworkers in the work environment, or maybe if you're a boss, your employees. With an eclipse here, somebody could be leaving. Somebody could be just up and out of there. Ciao, see you later, sayonara, in the 6 months that follow. And I also feel like with the trine to Saturn in the 8th, it's good for your money. And so if you leave a work environment, or you quit a job, or someone in your job quits, because there's a sun involved, it's often the authority figure in the workplace, or the one in power. If that's you, you could just up and quit your job, because it will benefit your finances with Saturn sextiling from the 6th house. And maybe also with the trine to Chiron, offer you something like you get some really good guidance from somebody in authority, like a mentor who helps you make a decision in your work. So a lot of you Cancers are looking at that shift. If you don't have a job and that's not a priority, and we just go back to the 6th house as a house of your health protocols, certainly this could be an energy of shifting. The last of the South Node eclipses through here, something definitive shifting in your health story. And maybe with the help of Chiron on the 10th, with the help of the healer, because Chiron is the wounded healer who's got a great reputation, right? Because that's the 10th house energy. Okay. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign people, you're going to experience this. Hi guys, I'm still here. I'm looking at the charts and not at you probably. All right. I always get the things people do TikTok and stuff, and they're like looking at themselves. You can tell, like, if you're looking at yourself and their eyeballs are completely off the screen. I'm like, guys, learn to look at the camera. Where was I? Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. I'm going to write that down. My pen, where'd it go? You know what? Maybe I'll get my daughter to timestamp this and pay her for it and forget doing it myself. I think I will. Okay. Well, maybe I'll keep trying. Okay, there's my pen. right, Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. You are experiencing the energy of something coming to a close or an end, being eclipsed. South node, letting go and softening in the house of your love stories, your romances, your children. Now, some of you Leos, you know, if it's about having a child and you're trying to get pregnant, the South node has been having a journey through your fifth house for a year and a half. You may have had some troubles there. If you are this could be children leaving home, leaving the nest, distance from your children, letting go of maybe helicoptering your children. The South Node here can also be a karmic love story, though. That's another thing. South Node transits in the fifth can bring these really soulmated things, but it can also be like the leaky bucket where the romance, sizzle, and fun starts to fall out of the romance in your life. And, you know, things to do with your creative impulse to be the artist working away in the studio has been like emptying out where you've been focused less on your inner muse and creativity, Leos, and more on being busy in 11th house North Node things to do with larger social groups, groups of belonging, maybe your reputation or just your hustle from your money, from your career, great gains from your career as the 11th. So you've been working it really hard there, maybe at the expense of having any fun lately, but don't worry. This is coming to an end. This fifth house South Node transiting cycle is closing up, and you only have until about April where anything about this theme is still falling into place, April of 22. So get ready for it to close. Yay. Ah, you won't believe what I just did. I advanced the chart like 1,000 hours ahead. I'm looking at it without looking at what I'm doing. Okay, getting ready for the next sign. Oh, over that Leo, right? Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. You guys are having this at eclipse energy happening in your fourth house of home. Yeah, like real estate, land, home, where you live, house of the mother, house of the ancestral patterns, you know, the ways that you may not know that you're just living out family stories unconsciously, or the expectations of your family of origin. So this is a bit of an underworld house, a bit of a deep dive, sort of a soul house where you can have sort of your little mini dark nights of the soul. But it also just simply means, you know, it's where you live. And the South Node going through the house of home. Well, I mean, for a lot of Virgo risings, there has been changes of home and letting go of old homes and, you know, maybe the beginning of new residences. Now, it also could just be a feeling of loss around the home. Like maybe you have a home, but it's empty, or you feel like there's no one there and you're all alone, right? Because it's sort of South Node in that fourth house. And I mean, in COVID, a lot of people feel that way. But some of you Virgos may have felt like there's something wrong with your home. My daughter is a Virgo rising, and she had this horrible roommate fallout during this eclipse cycle, South Node through her fourth house. And it was really, really traumatic. And she ended up having to move to a new home. She was a university student. So, so you might relate, some of you Virgo risings, to this kind of loss or empty bucket with a hole in it feeling in the house home vibe. And this is the last of these eclipses. Now, an eclipse with the sun, moon in the fourth house could be the eclipse of a parent, okay? And in this case, a father. So I'm just not going to lie to you. You know, that's true of all eclipses through new moon eclipses, which are, you know, sun and moon together through the fourth house. And in a way, it could also be, you know, a loss with your mother, but it doesn't mean your mother is going anywhere either, or your father. I mean, you might be moving away from them. They might be moving away from you. And if that's, you know, to geographical distance, if that's the case, you'll see that story play out in the next 6 months. There's a lot of focus in the 10th house of your reputation and your career, and you've been angling towards enhancing that and getting things going in work, job, and career. And home has maybe suffered. As you get out of this eclipse cycle by April, however, your home life will stabilize, and there'll be less sense of disappointment and turbulence and change there, and more sense of security and stability. Okay. And this last thing I'd say, with the sextile to Saturn in the 6th house, things are picking up with your health regarding home and health, and also work routines and home. So that's all really sweet, as well as a sort of signature on this eclipse. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. Hang on. I mean, I'm going to try to badly timestamp this. 16 minutes and 30 minutes. Libra. You got Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. You guys are having the new moon, December 4th eclipse happening in your third house. Now, this is trips and travel, especially easy back and forth stuff like commuting or even just domestic travel to places you've been before in your own country. And that's been like south noded, like all your trips and travel have really sort of the bottom fell out of them in the last 18 months. Well, that's true for everyone, but you may be feeling it as a loss because that's where the south node is. South node is also skills-based teaching and learning. Some of you may have had a penchant for like webinars and seminars and short learnings, but that softened up as well. And your relationship to your siblings. Now, I do know of a Libra who lost a sister who died during this transit, Libra sun, but Libra sun and moon and rising can all experience a loss of a sibling with the south node eclipses going through the third house. Now, all of that is mostly behind you. This is the last eclipse. There is that warrior star Antares, however, the nature of Mars and Jupiter there. You might go to battle for something that you really care about, to do with things that are in your local neighborhood. The south node there, it may be something about having to support something that is detrimental, that is good to counteract something that is detrimental to the local neighborhood. Like they want to build a nuclear power waste dump next to your house or something. What else can I say? If you're in the online world, doing social media like I'm doing, all of that hustle energy and getting, platforms going and reaching people on online website stuff, that is very much third house stuff as well. And a lot of you Libras, if you've been involved in that, you may have felt like beleaguered and maybe have let go of some of that energy over the last year and a half. And this is the last eclipse there because the energy is pulling you to the ninth house. You really want to be more lofty. You want to be more spiritually philosophical. You're trying to pull into your true calling and purpose, your dharma. The higher purpose of your life is ninth house. You might be really looking at expanding your beliefs and moving into larger and more operative belief structures. And that's been true for a year and a half, and it continues through till April of 2023. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. So Scorpio folk, you guys have this eclipse in the money house. Yes, you do, the second house, where money is being eclipsed from your life for the last year and a half. That's your earnings and your possessions. Like you probably had to sell a car or something, sell your favorite furniture, make ends meet. South node eclipses through the second house are not just about like problems with earnings or possessions or money. It's like deeper than that. I mean, there's the throat, the mouth, the voice, that's what the south node is going through, the house of voice. What's your voice in the world? What's your power of speech? And sometimes it's a south node transit. It's getting you very deeply willing to let go of any kind of path in your work or earnings path that really doesn't line up with your more soulful truth of who you are. So there is that part of that transit, Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising, where you've been investigating the way money shows up in your life and whether it really fits your true self, your soul energy. At the same time, there's a lot of expansion in the eighth house where the universe wants to give you money that comes from things like business partnerships, inheritances, tax rebates, grants, stipends, investment payoffs, dividends. Okay, you get the gist, right? Book royalties. So a lot of you, if you haven't had an inheritance in your Scorpio rising, especially, you still might be in for a bit of an inheritance from great Aunt Jane or something between now and April. There's definitely some chunks of money are trying to come to you with the North Node going through your eighth. Lastly, your sex life and intimacy with your partner is eighth house. And it's about getting deep beyond the play sex of the fifth and the dutiful make babies at the seventh, and now you're in the eighth house. This is where the relationship is getting real. This is where the rubber meets the road, and it's often when sexual intimacy goes to another layer or it goes to another depth. And with the North Node there, by the way, squaring the fifth house of children, some of you guys may be in a push-pull around whether or not you want to have children, but watch out when that new eclipse cycle kicks in, because it will sextile your house of children, and some of you Scorpios who want to have babies or don't may end up having them. Alrighty, so that's it for you Scorpios. Yay! So your money story gets better by April anyway. That's what I want to say. Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising sign. Well, this is your eclipse cycle. This is like all yours to win or to lose or to, whatever you want to do with it. I forgot to timestamp that last one. Yes. Sorry, give me a minute, guys. I lost my calculator. 21. Okay. 21:39 for Sag. Okay. So Sagittarius, you know what? It has been hard, I bet, for you guys. I don't even know what it'd be like. I haven't had a South Node through Aquarius for a while, my rising sign, but well, yeah, not that far, not that long ago, actually. About 6 years ago, but you're having a long eclipse cycle of the South Node through the house of your body and your identity. And it's mostly true for Sagittarius rising, but derivatively, Sag suns and Sag moons will feel this vibe. And with this eclipse cycle, like so intensely, having you soften, surrender, let go, and release things to do with a sense of identity, this is the last salvo. Because it's at 12 degrees of the sign of Sagittarius, certainly if your ascendant, let's say, is between about 9 degrees and 15 degrees of Sag, or your sun and moon, this is a particularly gnarly and intense eclipse for you. And, what does that mean for the sun sign Sagittarius? Well, we're talking about the second decan, more or less, of Sagittarius. So that would make it, I'm doing the math of the math. It would be if your birthday is somewhere like in the first 10 days of December as a sun, Sagittarius sun, kind of vibe, maybe the last, I'd say the last day of November and the first 5 or 6 days of December. Okay, you're going to really feel this a lot. And so I would encourage you to play with the universe a little bit here and not take it too personally. I do know some Sagittarius has had health problems during this South Node transit through their Sag sign. I remember when I had Aquarian South Node transits, I had some really interesting health problems too. South Node eclipses through my chart 6 years ago. So I want you to really look, 5, 6 years ago, I want you to really look at this as an opportunity to surrender, to let go, let God, to find the mandate of the universe is a friendly place to be true. Now, it's the end of a longer journey, right? Of the last, since like midsummer of 2020. So you've been familiar with this energy. With the North Node having gone through your house of marriage and primary love partnerships that are stable and lasting and monogamous, or your business partnerships, a lot of Sagittarius people have been working really hard on that relationship. There's a lot of focus North Node transit through there. Doesn't mean it's easy. And in fact, sometimes North Node transits through marriage houses and marriages as well, or relationships, but you've been trying your best. You've been focusing maybe a bit more, or your partner, business or love, has been taking a lot of attention as well, maybe in a way that has been almost draining for you. So some of you Sagittarius may see it this last eclipse. It's on a warrior star. This could be signaling a final end to that relationship if it's been difficult, business or love. And in the 6 months that follow, some of you Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising will see that. But if not, then you're going to fight to make it work. But one way or the other, it's a bit of a make or break, especially, as I said, if your rising sign is between 9 and 15 degrees of Sag. Wow, those seagulls are so loud. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. You guys are having the energy of the new moon eclipse on December 4th in your 12th house of your dreams at night, your meditations, your kind of inner life, things you hide from the world, the closet, the hidden house, sometimes things you hide from yourself. Certainly self-sabotage, self-undoing are very classic 12th house features. How do you repeat patterns, or how do you adhere to addictive substances even that keep undoing you and keep sabotaging you in life and keep having you fall away from your purpose? Because the 12th house falls away from the ascendant, and that's kind of the meaning of falling away from our identity. And I feel like you could end up with a turning point with this eclipse. And a lot of you who've been tinkering around with seeing your own self-defeating habits may just about be ready to call it quits and just get off that path, And with the North Node going through your 6th house, it's time to take care of your health. And it's been that message since, summer of 20. Take care of your body, take care of your health, but also your work and your work routines are supposed to be supporting you. You may have been working really hard since summer of 20 as well, but it's also to be wary of how the drain or the leak in your 12th house could be causing problems. Now, honestly, I mean, South Node 12th house could be karmic hidden enemies, friends and allies who are not allies and friends, hidden enemies, South Node transit, eclipses. Now, an eclipse, solar eclipse in the house of hidden enemies in your 12th house could be an end of a hidden enemy, someone undoing you in some way, somebody doesn't have your back, somebody that is really not good for you, leaving your life. stepping away from your life, could be a guy or a girl, it's a new moon. So the moon and the sun are together. All right. That's all I'm going to say for you guys. It's good to South Node eclipses through the 12th are good for spiritual attainment. The tail of the South Node, Rahu, Ketu is about where we let go and we have disappointment so that we can reach into our soul a little bit more. And so the whole call of this time is to do that and not to be caught up too much in the attainments and the achievement stories of the world. This is me, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. I am one of you guys. We are having the sun and moon joining on December the 4th in our last salvo of our 11th house, softening, letting go, releasing, leaking out of our social circles, friendships, and groups of belonging. Well, I sure can attest to that. And, you're getting more picky too over the last, since December of 2020 until April of 23, that whole influence field is getting you way more picky about who you choose to invite into your circles of influence and your social communities. And honestly, it's a bit of a call to be more alone in your 5th house where the North Node has been traveling. This is a house of your independent business enterprise, your children, your creativity, your muse, your inspiration. I paid more attention to my daughter since 2020 than I have the entire life she's been here. She's 22. I moved all the way to Montreal to help her out. At the same time, I also paid a lot of attention to creative projects and my independent business as a lunatic astrology channel, and very, very busy readings business over the last 2 years. Don't anyone ever tell you that you can't make a business as an astrologer, FYI. I am really delighted with how successful I am doing this, and I love doing it. So, I took all this last, 2020 to now as an Aquarius rising to focus on my business. That's independent business enterprises, 5th house. So I want you guys to see how Aquarius, this softening of the 11th, is not a bad thing. It's like literally taking your attention away from trying to, be in the world in a kind of a, I don't know. 11th house are great gains from the 10th, and the fame, promotions, awards, red carpet, Oscar moments, getting all the money, the great glory. And I don't think that that's the priority for Aquarius is right now. You're doing like kind of authentic, interior, creative, muse inspired, inspirited work in the world, creativity in the world. And that's where your thrival is. So this last eclipse, it could eclipse a friend from your life. Okay. So one of my dear friends died she was my age. I'm 59. She died a year ago during the South Node eclipse cycle through my 11th house. So you can lose close friends. Yes, you can. And yes, some of them may die. They're not dying because of you having a North or South Node eclipse in your 11th house, or just that's their life story. But it's telling you that you could lose those friends. They could go somewhere, like die or move away. Certainly when I moved to Montreal, I had to let go of a whole bunch of friends, right? And I was there all of 2019 and 20. So it dovetailed with this eclipse cycle. So think of it this way, Aquarius, finally, I'm going to finish with you. There is that sextile from the letting go in the 11th house to Saturn in your 1st house. It's really growing you up. You're adulting and you're sobering up where you want to spend your time, with whom, and what groups of belonging matter to you. And lastly, the 11th house is your deepest dreams, hopes, and wishes. If you had a fairy godmother or genie in a bottle and they said, what do you wish for your life? This is the 11th house. This is your karmic and cosmic rewards as well. Okay, so why did I say that? It's 6 from the 6. So I want you to think about your life in terms of the South Node is asking you to dump, release, and throw out the garbage of all the things that are not your truest hopes, beliefs, dreams, and wishes for your life. What do you want to see yourself doing in 5 years from now? Well, the South Node has been taking away all that isn't true for you. That's seagull. So, master, how do you carve a perfect elephant every time from the block of jade, says the student to the Zen master carver. And the master carver says, I carve away all that is not elephant. South Node is carving away all that is not true to your highest aspirations, goals, and visions for your life. Last call on that, and it finishes by April of next year. I think I went long for Aquarius. I think that in my high horse there. Okay, last but not least is Pisces. And Pisces, you are having this energy of the new moon, December 4th eclipse in your 10th house of career. Now, your career house is your reputation and status in the world as well. So like, I'm divorced, I'm widowed, I'm married, I'm single, I'm engaged. All of those things are like reputation and status things. So sometimes eclipses through the 10th house can change that. You know, you're dating and then you're engaged. You're engaged and then you're getting married. You're married and you're getting separated or divorced. So you could have some of those things that have been going on, Pisces people, since summer of 2020. And we'll finish by April of 2023. Now, this eclipse in particular, right, is angular for you. It's going to square your ascendant because you're a Pisces. I would point out, if you have an ascendant, sun or moon Pisces, all right, between about 9 degrees and 15 degrees of Pisces, you will really feel this eclipse quite a lot. And I didn't do that for Virgo, but I probably should have. So you guys can feel this as some turbulent waves of change in the status and reputation part of the chart. Also just your career or your purpose and your ambition, like the work you do in the world. And yet, you've been having that South Node letting go in this part of the chart really for so long. So, you know, think about how it's felt since midsummer of 2020. What have you let go of in that ambitious, success-driven reputation and status part of the chart? A lot of energy has been pulling you to the 4th house. Work from home, do things in the home, change of home, fortify the home. Certainly Pisces, with eclipses going through the 4th house and our North Node eclipses, there is a call, and has been a call, for you to make some changes in and from the home. And it's not over until April. So if you go, I haven't moved my home's still my home, or nothing's changed in my home, it's not over yet. No, some changes could be coming there. This class eclipse too in your 10th house will square your descendant if your rising sign descendant axis is 9 to 15 degrees. So if your descendant is 9 to 15 degrees of Virgo, you'll really feel this as well in your primary relationship. And it could be a bit of turbulence there as well. All right, done. Thank you guys for listening. That was a story or two in the sky that I told you today. I'm recording on November 20th for the December 4th eclipse. I hope that helped and you made sense of what I had to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for listening. I appreciate all of you guys.